So, let's kick this off with a question that honestly changes everything. Why did European enslavers specifically target people from certain regions of West Africa? Well, the answer completely dismantles a lie that's been told for centuries.
Okay, look at this. On the left, you've got the reality. The people being trafficked were, in many cases, expert agricultural engineers. And then on the right, you have the label they were slapped with, unskilled labor. This is the core contradiction we're going to tear apart.
And that leads us right to the central question for our explainer today. Why wasn't this incredible expertise just ignored? Why was it actively erased and relabeled? The answer, as you'll see, is way more strategic than you might think. All right, let's dive into it. This whole narrative of unskilled labor, it wasn't some simple oversight or a mistake. No, it was a carefully crafted lie, designed specifically to justify exploitation. So let me be crystal clear. That standard story that so many of us learned in school, it's not just missing a few details, it's an outright, deliberate lie. Now, to really get why this lie was so important to them, you have to look at the massive, unsolvable problem the European colonizers were facing. They had all this land, but they had absolutely no clue what to do with it. Okay, so step one, they had to land. Stolen land, to be perfectly accurate. But here's the kicker. They had no idea how to farm it. Not profitably, anyway. You see, all their farming methods, the ones they'd perfected in the mild fields of Europe, were totally useless in the tropical and swampy climates of the Americas. They tried, and they failed, big time. And this right here really shows you the knowledge gap we're talking about. On one side, you've got the European know-how, completely mismatched for the environment. And on the other, over 3,000 years of sophisticated West African expertise, perfectly tailored to the exact conditions they were dealing with. Which brings us to our primary case study, Carolina rice. And we need to stop thinking about it as just a crop. It's the smoking gun, the clearest evidence of massive intellectual property theft. I mean, even people at the time admitted it, even if they buried it in a huge understatement. This planter wrote that the Africans help us much. You gotta understand, help us much is colonial speak for they provided the entire technological system that made us fantastically wealthy. And what was that system? It was this, tidal cultivation. This wasn't just tossing seeds in the ground. We're talking about complex civil engineering, using dikes, gates, even the cycles of the moon to manage water. It was a technology completely alien to Europeans, but absolutely mastered in West Africa. In fact, as you can see here, pretty much every single piece of Carolina rice production was built on African technology. From the complex irrigation, all the way down to the specific tools they used for processing and winnowing the grain. It was a complete technological package, stolen in its entirety. And what was the result of all this stolen knowledge? Well, by 1770, the colony was exporting 80 million pounds of rice every single year. I mean, that's just a staggering number. To really put that into perspective for you, that's worth about $150 million in today's money. Annually, that's an insane amount of wealth generated from African expertise, while the credit and the cash went to the plantation owners. But here's the thing, this wasn't a one-off. It wasn't just about race. This was a pattern. It was a repeatable playbook for turning stolen knowledge into colonial fortunes. And this slide, it lays out that playbook perfectly. It's a 7-step process, really. Find a crop you want to make money on. Realize you have no idea how to grow it. Co-traffic actual experts from the one region in the world that does. Squeeze their knowledge out of them, take all the credit and all the profits, and then, and this is the most important part, rewrite history to erase their contribution and call it your own innovation. And you can see how this playbook was run again and again. With rice, that brilliant title system was just called plantation ingenuity. For indigo, the complex chemistry needed to get the dye was credited to a planter's daughter, Eliza Lucas Pinckney, not the enslaved people who actually knew how to do it. Same story for the advanced techniques for curing tobacco. So why does digging all this up matter now? I mean, it's all in the past, right? Well, no. The consequences of erasing this knowledge are absolutely still with us today. You see, that unskilled label was an incredibly effective strategic tool. It was the perfect moral and legal justification for paying nothing for this priceless knowledge. It denied any concept of intellectual property rights. It propped up the racist narrative of a primitive Africa
to justify slavery itself, and maybe most important of all, it laundered the stolen wealth, making it look legitimate.
And if you think this kind of thing is just ancient history, think again. This playbook is very much still in use. Today, we just have a fancy new name for it: biopiracy. It's the exact same model. Corporations take traditional knowledge from indigenous communities, patent it, and make a fortune, while the people who developed it get absolutely nothing.
So this is really the most important takeaway here. When we talk about the historical debt that's owed, it isn't just about centuries of unpaid physical work. It's about stolen patents, stolen engineering, and stolen intellectual property that was and still is immensely valuable.
Which leaves us with one final, unavoidable question. If the foundational knowledge that generated centuries of wealth was stolen, then who really owns all that wealth today?